Hello all, welcome, and I hope you're having a great day. I'm excited to talk about something that I have been waiting for a long time, and that is the glimpse of the 14th Doctor that we just got. Now, I have to warn you, if you've not been keeping up with Doctor Who, I am about to spoil a bunch of stuff pronto that has to do with everything that's been released so far. So if you don't want to have your Doctor Who spoiled that you're not aware of, please click away. I will not be offended. It is much more important for me that you preserve that experience for yourself rather than watching my video. So please feel free to do that, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. But, like T-minus like probably 5 seconds, I'm going to spoil a bunch of stuff. Okay, so here we go. David Tennant as the 14th Doctor. Man, oh man, was I excited to see this. So last year we had the Power of the Doctor special, where we saw Jodie Whittaker regenerate into David Tennant. That surprised some of us, not all of us, because there were some rumors about it at the time. It surprised me, and I know some other people were kind of aware of it, were very confident that David Tennant was going to be the 14th Doctor, and they were correct. But a lot of us thought it was going to be Ncuti Gatwa. So when he regenerated into, or when Jodie Whittaker regenerated into David Tennant, we were like, what? And now, almost, I think, has it been a year? I think it's been a whole year later, at least. We still hadn't gotten up to this point a real thing with David Tennant as the 14th Doctor, because we got, I think, a very short comedy sketch a while back that didn't really have hardly any runtime. And nothing against that one, but it just, we hadn't really gotten to see a full, like, David Tennant on set playing the 14th Doctor thing. Well, fast forward to earlier this week, the BBC, actually I think it was last week, the BBC released something for a special called Children in Need. Children in Need is basically a TV special. A lot of programs sort of donate mini episodes from their properties to get a lot of people watching this special, and then they have donation links and they have promotions from the show creators and that kind of thing. It's a great thing. And Doctor Who, as noted by the BBC, has a long tradition of featuring their own videos in Children in Need. So, for this year's Children in Need, you had David Tennant playing the 14th Doctor, and oh my goodness, I was so excited to see this. The one word I would use to describe this is fun. David Tennant looks like he's having so much fun on the set playing this Doctor, and I actually think this is a better appearance than the 50th anniversary special is. Now let me explain that, because a lot of people wouldn't agree with that. The 50th anniversary, while I really liked it, I think it did slightly suffer from the problem of David Tennant kind of trying to recapture what had just passed with playing the 10th Doctor. And like I said, I love David Tennant. He did great in all of his appearances in Doctor Who. But this is better because this is very clearly a new regeneration and a slightly different Doctor, I think. I don't think he's trying to copy exactly the 10th Doctor. He has a lot of the same qualities, but he's doing it in a slightly different new spin. And it's a lot of fun to watch. Of course, you've got Davros there, and Davros has got the Dalek that he's designing there, and it's sort of playing with the canon a little bit, which I didn't mind because it is a Children in Need special. But even, like, I'm going to get to this in a minute, right? The reasons why I'm okay with Russell T Davies messing with the timelines. If you didn't know, Russell T Davies, the original showrunner from seasons 1 to 4, is back now going forward. I don't know how long, but he's returning, and a lot of us are excited about that. In that new era, the reason why I don't really mind him messing with that timeline, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but we've got Davros here and sort of talking to this underling, and they are figuring out the name for the Dalek, and it's silly. It's almost like something you would see in a movie theater from like one of the new Star Trek or Star Wars movies where they're poking fun at something and it actually works really well. So I was watching that, and I was just smiling watching this actor still playing Davros. By the way, I have to mention this too. There was a communication thing that came in. It's like, Davros, you're needed in the... I don't remember what he said. But that was like, I'm not sure if that's the same guy, but one of Davros's assistants talks just like that. Like, that is clearly him. And I thought that is either really good using the same actor, really good impression, or a really good like use of AI. I don't know how they got that voice to sound just like that. Maybe they just used a clip from the original show. I'm not sure. But a lot of fans probably missed that little detail, but that makes me feel very optimistic because I'm like, oh my goodness, even the little details they're filling in and making that work. And that guy who played that role was a very famous guy in the show because he played multiple villains or multiple not recurring, but he played many roles in the old classic show. So, and then of course, you've got the main event. You've got David Tennant crashing in the TARDIS, and these graphics, by the way, are looking incredible. This new high-budget Doctor Who, and this is a children in need special. This is probably not even looking as good as the show's going to look, because in the past, Children in Need has looked a little bit like a little bit approaching that, but it hasn't looked quite the quality of Doctor Who. So if this is like the Children in Need special, I can't imagine what the actual show is going to look like when we get a full episode. The trailers already look really good as far as the quality and everything, but of course those clips and the sound and everything is not finished from those trailers yet. So we'll see. I'm sure it's going to look spectacular. So anyway, you got David Tennant walking out of the TARDIS. His hair is piled up to high heaven. He's got a big spike coming out of the top of his head with the hair. And you can just tell he's having fun. You can just tell he is just so full of enjoyment coming out of this TARDIS and addressing kind of the fans for the first time, like, hey, I'm back again. And then, Davros designs this Dalek that has this killer claw, and the 14th Doctor crashes the TARDIS, destroys the little claw thing, and the assistants, they're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And David Tennant, of course, pulls out a plunger and hands it to the assistant, and throws it to him. And then Davros comes back and he's like, I like it, almost kind of reminding me of Creed Bratton, weirdly. But that was just spectacular. So I was just basically smiling from ear to ear the whole time. I have to say this. The Chibnall era, it had some good things going for it. But I will say it always felt like it lacked a vision. It always, to me, felt like there was no desire to have a real arc or a real high-stakes timeline going. Or even just a lot of the Doctor just having fun being the Doctor. The show became very goal-oriented per episode and became very pragmatic and we have to get to the next thing, and here's the next thing, here's the next thing. And there really wasn't a time when the Doctor was just like, I'm the Doctor, this is who I am, I do this because life is fun. And life is adventurous, and life is also about saving those who are less fortunate, and saving those in danger, and saving those who need help. That sort of valiant hero. I just feel like that element of Doctor Who was missing during the Chibnall era. And for some people it worked. And I'm not going to begrudge those people because, if you enjoy something, I am never going to be a fan who tells you that it's wrong to enjoy something. If you enjoy something, I am absolutely happy for you. And frankly, a lot of the time I'm jealous of you. But I feel this coming back. And I know that a lot of this is probably me being very, maybe even overly optimistic because I wanted to change so bad, and now Russell T Davies is back and I got the nostalgia goggles. There are going to be some things from this era that disappoint me. It happens every single era with every person, but the old Russell T Davies era had its ups and had its downs, but people tend to agree that it is very good and it works very solidly as a piece from the first season with the 9th Doctor all the way up until the 10th Doctor in the 4th season in the specials. It's kind of a cohesive thing that feels very satisfying when they sent off David Tennant. So I'm hoping for something like that with these new Doctors rolling forward. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do with the 15th Doctor after David Tennant stays for these 3 or 4 specials. I'm not sure how many. I'm not sure about the timeline for that, really, who the Christmas special is going to feature mainly. By the way, we are getting 3 specials and a Christmas special this year. So, why am I okay with Russell T Davies messing with the timelines? Well, it really has to do with who Russell T Davies is as a showrunner. Because I think he is really good at getting people to take ideas that they aren't really that on board with and make them work. If you think about all the fans who loved Classic Who got to know the Time Lords, especially from things like Trial of the Time Lord with Colin Baker, which that 14-episode thing where it was pretty much all on Gallifrey, even dating back to like the Three Doctors when we got one of our first glimpses of the Time Lords, back to the War Games with the first regeneration. Like those fans who had been around for all of those things. And to have Russell T Davies come in and just destroy the Time Lords, right? He just, my planet's gone. I'm the last of the Time Lords. That's what the Ninth Doctor said. That probably made a lot of people mad, but it served such a narrative function that even people who didn't like that probably came to like what they did with it, versus, I'm sorry, Chris Chibnall coming in and basically just saying, yep, Gallifrey's destroyed again. And there's almost no grandeur about it. It's done because that was my plan and I destroyed it because I can. As in the Master. I'm not gonna be that hyperbolic. It was Russell T Davies, or excuse me, it was Chris Chibnall writing that for the Master, right? The Master destroying Gallifrey. So, everything seems like it's treated with a lot more care. And I'm gonna say this specifically because in this episode, we had not only the timeline being messed with, but we had Davros himself being messed with. The reason I'm talking about this specifically is because of what was done in terms of Davros and his appearance. So, if you don't know, in the UK, the BBC has released a show called Doctor Who Unleashed, which is supposed to be like Doctor Who Confidential, I think. I've watched a lot of YouTube channels like Who Culture that talk about this extensively. On my Season 1 DVD of Doctor Who, there is a Doctor Who Confidential feature, which is how I first got to see that. Unfortunately, for those of us here in the US, Doctor Who Unleashed has not been released, but in that episode, Russell T Davies did talk a bit about why the appearance of Davros was changed, and those quotes have been released online, and I've seen some channels cover this stuff too. So if I understand correctly, Russell T Davies is basically saying there that in the past, Davros sort of continued this tradition of disability and disfigurement being associated with evil. Especially during an episode that's supposed to be helping children, you don't want to have this association between evil and disability. And that makes sense to me, And even watching interviews with Russell T Davies, it's just, you can tell that this guy has a lot of care in what he's doing. You can tell he has a lot of thought into what he's doing. And while it's true that he is not the kind of person to just course correct if the fans don't like something, I'm not saying he's here just to change his show around every single desire of the fandom. He is a person who has a good grasp on what the fans like, and even if they're not necessarily on board with something, like I said, how to sell it to people in a way where you can come to accept it. Because there are purists who will say you can't change the appearance of Davros. And while I understand that, I also think that if you're going to change the appearance of Davros like this, you got to make it work well. And I'm okay with Russell T Davies's reasoning there. I think it's noble. I think the way he explained it was well done. But I think even people who didn't know that, watching this episode, would see Davros there, and they would just say, "Oh, look, it's Davros," and he's like standing up and walking around, and he looks different now. And that performance is still there. The direction is still there. You can still see every bit of that performance, and it almost takes on more of a sinister tone when you can see his face moving and working, and he's not wearing a ton of prosthetics. So it's done so quickly. It's not, they don't go out of their way to address it. It's just, this is how it works now. Now let's make this work. And I think he absolutely does. And it's just, like I said, Russell is such a genuine guy that it's really hard to get upset with him about things that he does in the show. I can't really think of a single thing that he did in his run that I did not like. Now, granted, I had not been as much of a classic fan at that point. I think by the time I got to the end of the Russell T Davies era, I hadn't watched hardly any Classic Who, versus by the time I got to the end of the Moffat era, I was pretty well versed on Classic Who. And that's affecting my judgment a little bit. But I think he really even something like romance between the Doctor and his companion, that was something else that was not done back in the day before the 1996 movie, and then a lot of fans were hoping Russell T Davies would squash that trend, and he didn't squash it. He continued it and expanded it. but it was done in such a dramatic way where it worked. So I'm just saying, I think this is a person who can make this work. And I'm just the entire team behind this show, seeing photos from the set, seeing interviews, it's just, you can tell, David Tennant is always smiling. Russell T. Davis, he's always very thoughtful and contemplative about it. You can tell that people are just loving this, and I'm so excited to see what they do. And I'm so excited to see here in the States the show released on Disney Plus, so I can watch it every single week. And my friends who have Disney Plus, they can watch it too now. I don't have to tell them, go out and get a subscription to Max. And I'm sorry, nothing against Max, but it's just far fewer people have that, I think, right? Or even back in the day when it was on Prime Video and not many people had Prime Video. It's just nice to have Disney, Doctor Who. They both even start with the letter D. It's nice. I'm eating this up. I'm loving it. I'm so excited to see what they do next. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. And just tell me what you're most excited for, I guess, going forward with the new Who. So until next time, allons-y, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.